welcome back. It's obviously somewhat darker since we were last here. Been out doing some digging, making the most of the last of the sunshine before it gets rainy, which is bound to do tomorrow. Okay, so where are we? We're on stringing our guitar, the fun part now. We've done the frets, cleaned, polished everything else up. So now we've got some extra slinky Ernie ball strings, cup of tea, and string winder. I'll just get my clippers, tin snips. Dum-dum-dum, where have they gone now? It's always the way. You lose the one thing you need. Okay, well, I'll use my alternative ones. Okay, so here we are, ready to string the guitar. And hoping, or expecting, when we come to string it, these are very, very light strings actually, but I'm expecting it to be sounding pretty good, because it was sounding not bad at all before we said about leveling the frets. So stringing your guitar. Now this is a single ordinary locking, non-locking machine heads, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to, when I string the thing, to save time, and be careful not to fall off the edge, save time, I go pull right the way through to the end of the string, then pull back a couple of inches and crimp the string, bend the string, and then get ready to do your string winding and get the other tuners out of the way. So we can do this fairly rapidly. And want to get that. I'm trying to keep everything under tension the whole way, because I just want to keep it so it doesn't bunch up anywhere or come uncoiled while you're doing this. There we go. First one on. Now what I'll do is I'll cut the excess off at the end. The second string, the B. Now there is a thing you can do, which I'm not going to do now because I haven't learned it, strangely enough, but there is something sensible you can do when you're putting your strings on, and there is a way of locking the strings under each other, under themselves as you go through, to double ensure that they don't pull back. I tend to leave enough wire on these that they never come they never seem to come undone anyway. But you can, if you really want to go the whole hog, you can do a bit of research and find out. It's a bit like tying knots and sailing. There's a way of looping the string round and under itself to make sure that it can't possibly go anywhere. There are tuners that do that for you, self-locking tuners, and they're a really good idea. But make sure you've got a string winder like this blue thing I've got, because it really makes a heck of a difference. You can do this job really quickly if you invest in like £2.50 for your string winder. It takes the misery of hand cranking those strings, and I've done it over the years by hand, and it is tiring. Oh, that's good. Drop the string. So what we're going to do is we're going to string this up, and then we're going to put it under a bit of tension, get it nearly get it nearly tuned, and then we're going to, when it's under a bit of tension, we're going to set the truss rod, make sure that the neck is correct. I think it needs a half turn, remembering what I already did to it prior to doing the fret leveling. I know it's going to require a half turn in the opposite way. Just have to remember which way it is. Clockwise, I think it's going to need half turn clockwise. So again, you can see these going on really quickly. So we'll set the truss rod, then we'll set the action, and then finally we'll double check the intonation. And on this guitar, I'm hoping all of that will be fairly trouble-free, because I think this guitar is in fairly good shape. Now with these heavy strings, when you get to this point, leave most of it dangling off, because you really don't want to be winding on too much of this. Equally, you don't want too little. You need to gauge it so that you're not putting sort of bales of rope onto this tuning peg. I'll probably end up with about 4 turns around. This is probably even a bit too much, but you'll get it with experience and practice. If you don't already have it down pat. The secret also with putting on strings is, don't, whatever you do, end up with a situation where you crimp the strings or overbend them, or bend them while you're putting them on. That's the fatal thing. If you bend them and then you have to take them off and redo them, you'll already weaken the string, and the likelihood is you'll end up breaking it. Now, this one's quite tricky, so I'm just pulling it off to the side a bit. Bullet Strat, this is the first one I've had of these, first one I've seen. Not bad. I don't really know that much about them, so I don't know what makes a Bullet Strat different from anything else. Okay, so I'm going to just crop off these unnecessary, dangerous bits of extra string, and they leave behind a very sharp stub. So be careful when you're handling that end of the guitar, because it can really draw blood. But it looks nice and tidy if you do it that way, instead of leaving them dangling off. Now, as you know, strings, when you put them first on, are going to end up detuning quite a bit as they bed in. So first sort of 20 minutes of strings life. On this guitar, there's slightly sticky tuning peg there. But yeah, the first 20 minutes of the string's life, you're going to spend sort of stretching it gently. You can break it if you're not careful, but you get the sort of feel of just enough to let it bed in. And I'm going to take a reference tuning from somewhere, one of the guitars hanging up. I'm not going to go and get the iPhone tuner out, because all that will do is probably just interrupt the recording. So I'm just going to do this roughly. Pretty good, straight away. Not a lot wrong with that. Nice. Well, that's strung, and if I look down the neck a moment, you'll see there's probably a bit too much relief on that. Without knocking things off my shelf, I'm going to turn, I'm going to give myself, what did I say, counterclockwise. I want to go clockwise to take the relief out, and I want to do about half a turn. It's going to be hard to get this thing out. Leave that recover for a minute. About a 2/3, no, 1/6 of a turn that was. Okay. Again, I'll keep looking down the neck. Yeah, not too bad. Action's quite high, which we do next. Just get the tuning right. Lovely. That's feeling really good. Okay, so while we're here, next thing we're going to do is the intonation, and that will require me going to get my phone. And I'm going to set the phone to airplane mode and use it as a tuner. And so for that I'm going to need it on. So I'm going to need my amp on, and track the cable to its layer. Get there. Pain. I'm a bit tangled up behind the camera. You can't really tell, honestly, even though I'm knocking the camera all over the shop. Okay. Now I'm going to move a few things around because you need to be able to see this part of it. So I'll drag this over here. Battery powered amp. And I'm going to stick this down where you can see it. Okay, it's probably not bad. You can probably see what's going on there. Although you might not see the screws that we need to touch. Good, you can see them. Okay, so there's my strobe tuner. So turn my volume up a bit. So you can see that E is sharp. Now what we're going to do, to get your guitar intonated properly, what I haven't done is set the action. So the first thing we're going to do before we set the intonation is the action. And to do that I'm going to need the one thing I now can't find under all this junk, and that is my tiny Allen key. And I'm going to need granny specs for this as well, which are hidden behind here. Messy workplace. Okay, so this action's pretty high, so I'm going to aim to lower that. Okay, so in fact it's set really high, so I'm going to wind down if possible. I'm going to wind down the bridge saddle. Each string has its own saddle, and in doing so, as I wind it down, it's going to lower the string, but it's also going to lower the tone, so it'll go flatter. Again, still quite high. So we get the setter action the way we want it. Now the beauty of doing the fret dressing as we did, the fret leveling, is that we now have a guitar that we can set the action pretty low, and it won't be buzzing because we've really taken care to make sure all these frets are level. Okay, so I'm just going to tweak this a couple more. This particular one I'm working on now is playing a bit funny. Okay, down you go, my friend, down. Nice low action. Okay, so starting with the first string, the E string, I'm now going to attempt to wind down the other strings, just to bring them in line. And I'm not aiming to have them the same height. The point about the strings is the heights of the bridge saddles needs to follow the radius of your guitar neck. So if your guitar neck is a curve, which the Stratocaster is, it's quite a pronounced curve compared to some guitars, so its radius is quite small. You will need to set the E string lowest, the B string a little higher, the G string a bit higher than that, and then again down the other side as you go to the thicker strings, you need to bring those down so it goes over in a kind of arch or an arc. You're just aiming to broadly mimic the curve of the fingerboard, or the radius as you'll hear it spoken about. Now I think the Strat, as we're working on here, has I think it's a 7.25 inch radius, so they say, which compared to a Gibson Les Paul, which has usually a 12 inch radius, so the smaller the radius number, the more curved the neck is. Okay, I'm just having a quick feel of that. Oh, now the tuning's gone to pieces, of course, but the action is what we're looking for right here. We'll try and tighten that up and see what happens. Okay. So we're not worried too much about the tuning for a second. What we're worried about here is the action. My pickguard that's really low. That's about the lowest I've ever had on a guitar, actually. That's a testament to having done such a good job on the fret leveling.